on higher packaging costs.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I remember a few weeks ago when we were discussing the finance bill, these came up that, okay, what we're going then to see is the cost is going to be passed down to the consumer through these avenues. And now, other packaged goods, including tea, coffee exports, also to be impacted. So Kenyans should brace for a price increase in flour, eggs, and cartoned goods after the 2025 Finance Act introduced a number of taxes and levies on the raw component used in manufacturing of packaging materials. Tuliambiwa
hatukusikia ama walipinga
hapo sasa. Kome hapo kwa sasa.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I tell you guys this story. How apparently in Jogoo House, people are locking horns, turf wars, and you wonder. First of all, Jogoo House obviously is Ministry of Education, and when you think about the ministry in terms of what it's supposed to be doing, in terms of delivering the framework for which then education then will be activated around the country. The education sector is sinking in a deep maze of confusion as the top leadership, cabinet secretary, and his two principal secretaries speak at cross purposes. Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogamba appears increasingly sidelined by his two principal secretaries, just for purposes of clarity. See, the boss is the CS, and the PSs are under him, right? I'm asking a question.
That's how formally the structure is like.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving along. In the ensuing quiet power struggle playing out at the Ministry of Education, this seems to not be the case. Ogamba, Basic Education PS Julius Bitok, and University Education PS Beatrice Nyangala both seem to be pulling in different directions, creating confusion and undermining the critical sector. This has left parents, teachers, and university students and other education stakeholders in confusion as they get conflicting communication from the ministry top leadership in what is shaping into turf wars. And the fights have now drawn the ire of MPs who have called the ministry leadership into order. Luanda Member of Parliament Dick Maungu last week warned that PSs must remember they serve under a CS and not the other way round, just in case you forgot. We cannot have PSs that are acting as though they are bigger than the CSs. The PS, Julius Bitok, should have been here. Where's your PS? He's asking now, Ogamba, when he appeared before the National Assembly Education Committee. The 31st session was chaired by Eve Obara and the Kabondo Kasipul MP. Even though CS Ogamba explained that the committee's invite had only been addressed to him, and as such the PS was not obliged to attend, his frustrations were evident. Ogamba further explained that Professor Bitok was attending a performance appraisal meeting, the deadline of which fell on the same day. The CS was accompanied by dozens of other top ministry officials and agency heads. The absence of the PS raised eyebrows among lawmakers who questioned the apparent disjointedness in the ministry's leadership. MPs expressed concern that principal secretaries are increasingly acting with autonomy, often overshadowing the cabinet secretary. But that was a week ago. Today, they seem to be speaking from different scripts. Allow me just to say a little bit more. The discord surfaced this time over the revised university fee guidelines. Nyangala had directed that the changes take effect from 1st September, while CS Ogamba announced an earlier date of August 15th. In a circular dated 30th July, PS Nyangala directed that tuition fees be reduced by between 15 to 40% for both continuing and new students, with implementation beginning on the 1st of September. This is what the circular said. Ogamba then, however, said before that they should start on the 15th. Ogamba said, we have not entered the new fees in the portal. In fact, I said it will be effective from the 15th of August, explaining that the ministry was still synchronizing its figures to be reflected on university portals before publishing them. Now, vice-chancellors, as can be imagined, they spoke to the Standard and said that the impact of the turf wars at Jogoo House is creeping into institutions of higher learning. According to a VC of a public university held for now, it is true that there is a problem at the ministry and the top leaders do not seem to be speaking from the same page. In most cases, even the stakeholders are not consulted and decisions made from one office seems not to be endorsed by another. And then one would ask, what are the far-reaching effects of this? Is it something that you can talk about to within, amongst yourselves? Okay, so 15th August to 1st of September is 2 weeks. Can we do something about that? Or what it seems to me is that you're not talking to each other. And I guess this is one of the bane, actually of public service. And it's been said that before, that ministries and departments that literally are down the hall from each other don't speak to each other. But they're having conversations out there, but it's then clear that this thing that we're now splashing a headline about is a 10-minute conversation that somebody can actually say, okay, guys, what can we actually do? So why have this little conflict that can brew into something bigger, which is, in my view, absolutely unnecessary? It just seems to me like it's a conversation and maybe not as serious as we make it out to be. I think there are deeper issues here at the Ministry of Education, especially when you have ghost schools and ghost students, when you have capitation that is incomplete, when you're having conversations around reduction of university fees, and the next page of this story talks about universities that are 85 billion shillings in debt. I think those are the issues that they should be sitting around a table discussing, and not whether you're my superior or not.
Yeah.
It's clear. It's clear who's the superior here. Those are conversations that need to be had.
It is clear on paper, though.
Yeah.
It's clear on paper.
There's political here.
There's a Swahili saying, "Fahaliwa pigana, nyasi humia." So you see the ripple effect of this boardroom wars, and the people who are affected. You're looking at the universities affected, looking at all the schools affected, while at the top, very top, all these heads are fighting. But this is not the first time this is happening.
No.
And actually, in the current government, it's not the only ministry that's affected by this. This has happened, and it was widely reported in the Ministry of Health before Aden Duale took over. And there was the issue of who is actually in charge, because all the top officials were speaking from different scripts. And we take a step back, and we need to then understand the formation of this appointments. Conversations of shareholding and all that. So here's the thing. The elephant in the room is, who is the appointing authority? Who appointed who where? So the president appoints, exactly. But in the political party rearrangement or arrangement,
it's a cake.
The three of us, let's just pull back and let's just take this as an example. So let's assume you are the president, right?
All right, that's a good assumption.
You're the president.
Let's go.
Aseto is Kindiki.
Mr. 30%.
You are the deputy president.
Your Excellency.
Your Excellency. And you're
For argument's sake.
You're Mr. 30%?
Me,
Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Yeah, maybe Prime. It's not a good example, but I'll go with that. So the thing is, we come together, we're like, hey, look, you've brought in some numbers, I've brought in some numbers. So let's look at the ministries. So we have the Ministry of Education. Let's look at this example. So Ministry of Education, you as the president will decide, you know what, me, I'm going with Ogamba. Okay, that's my nominee.
That's my guy.
And then Seth was the deputy president will say, me, I also have my person. And my person who's going to be the PS is going to be?
My person.
Yes, your person. Me, I'll also come with a name. And I'll say, me, I think for PS, I want
high
to.
learning.
Yes, this is my nominee.
Yeah.
All right? So the list is taken to Parliament for approval. So in Parliament, whether they have an idea or not, the point is, Pitisha Imagina. So these three individuals don't necessarily know each other from the point of we've been appointed by the same person. All they know is Mimi Nileto na Aseto. The other person knows Mimi Nileto na Nani na Ukari. And this other one knows Mimi, I was appointed and I was actually called by His Excellency, the president. In this case, it's Ndu Oko. You're the one who called. So then we meet in the office in the ministry. Guess what happens?
There's no concert.
We will lock horns.
Absolutely.
It's a game of egos.
Yeah.
So it is because my brief.
Yes.
My brief. Because remember, when you have these wars, mali kuna vita kuna pesa.
Of
Exactly.
course.
The Ministry of Education has a lot of money. It's not just policy formulation.
700 billion.
Yes. And so in this case is when I've appointed my nominee, I'm expecting something. So you figure out how you're going to handle this. But for your nomination, I had to negotiate really, really hard. So I expect something either at the end of the month. You must deliver.
So you see.
And so what happens? So you will read from different scripts. Why? Because you're getting your briefs from 3 different individuals. Perhaps.
So your boss is the person essentially who brought you in.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
And that's exactly what's happening in many of these ministries. It's just a game of egos and who holds your brief.
It's like you're playing Monopoly with a country.
And at the end of the day, like I said, Pigana, so the ripple effect of all this, or the trickle-down effect of this boardroom wars, is then you end up having a lot of confusion. Going all the way to the very small primary school in some village somewhere. And we've had these discussions here before. Who speaks on behalf of who? We seem to be in a situation where, and I call it organized chaos, because everyone is speaking. Everyone is speaking at the same time. So you see that some confusion in Parliament.
But you see, I think it's what they learnt as well from the top, because remember, immediately the government was formed. Remember who was actually playing the roles of deputy president, especially with the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, who was seen to be doing what the then Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua ought to have been doing, representing the President in functions that ordinarily would have been the Deputy President then doing that. So if you look at what Parliament is doing or Cabinet Secretary is doing, I mean, it's just learning from the top. Are you surprised? No.
Well, all right.
It's in life. So there is this thing called Hustler Fund.
Okay.
Did you ever try to apply for that thing?
Actually, yesterday, I asked my brother-in-law, was asking him in the house, how do you apply for this thing, by the way? And it was, this is how you do, is it *254# or something? Then you have to register. And I got to the point of register, and then there was a point it was asking for my PIN number. I was like, no, I don't trust you all with my PIN number.
Wow. You don't trust the people who gave you the PIN number with your PIN number? All right.
Yeah, that's where I stopped.
That's where
I just wanted to see, how does this thing work? How much do you access, actually?
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Hustler Fund and just what it's all about. Now, a new report by a watchdog has issued a damning verdict on the Hustler Fund, labeling it as a structurally flawed, economically unsound and politically motivated initiative that has failed to empower the citizens it was meant to uplift. Now, the report by the Kenya Human Rights Commission, which recommended that the fund be decommissioned, established that the fund has failed to deliver on its mission. The evidence presented in this study leads to a singular and inescapable conclusion that the Hustler Fund has failed and should be scrapped. Despite political rhetoric and publicized success stories, the fund has neither pushed for financial inclusion nor provided meaningful economic empowerment to its targeted demographic. Now, however, in a quick rejoinder, the government strongly defended its flagship project, terming the report a malice and saying they were never given a chance to give clarity on the issues raised. Launched with much fanfare on November 30th, 2022, as a flagship policy on the Kenya Kwanza administration, the fund aimed to democratize access to credit for low-income Kenyans and the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. But almost 2 years later, the report titled Failing the Hustlers concludes that the fund has instead turned into what it calls an economic sinkhole and urges that it be scrapped altogether.
Okay, scrapped altogether. So where does the money go? Remember, the initial amount was 50 billion shillings. Did Kenyans borrow 50 billion shillings? My question is simple. If all of that has been expended in terms of money, having been given out in by way of loans, how many people have borrowed? How many people have repaid? What is the interest that they've accrued from it? Remember that they said if you borrow, you also, something of that money goes towards your savings.
Yes.
So if they scrap the whole thing, what happens to people who've kept some kind of money for savings?
Yes.
What happens to that money? Who actually borrowed from the Hustler Fund, you guys?
Yes.
What is your limit when you borrow?
And how does it get to increase? And what's the repayment rate? So these are the questions that are being asked. And, like even today, if you ask the government in terms of who is even operating this fund, who is the account that holds this fund and disseminates it to Kenyans, there has never been any clear information on how Hustler Fund operates.
In terms of implementation metrics, there was no law that then enabled the administration of this fund then to be established. Because you can't just have, we have a Hustler Fund, we need a CEO. No. It needed to be done through the proper channels, and there was an issue about how that was done in the first place. So my question is still, and I don't know if you guys see where I'm going with this, 10 billion shillings essentially. They're saying, is hanging around having not been paid. Okay, that's great. Where did the 40 billion go? Who actually borrowed this 40 billion? Who?
So
is it the Kenyans who your limit is 500 shillings, and when you return the money you get it, and then you say, now we've increased your limit, then you think, fantastic, I can start my business with, maybe they'll give me 100k. You borrow, it is now 700 shillings
or 550.
Yeah Those are not the people that we're talking about that have borrowed this 10.9 billion shillings.
So according to evidence, has further shown that there has been a significant misallocation of public funds via the Hustler Fund, with a default rate of 68.3% and a net loss of 71.5%, and an opaque governance structure flagged by the Auditor General's report.
Default rate of how much?
Default rate of 71.5%. Default rate is 68.3%, and net loss of 71.5%.
This is one of those situations where you have a transparency black hole. And because you can't oversight clearly in terms of, let's look at the management of the Hustler Fund first of all, and we also think through the institutional oversight, what mechanisms are in place, like Ndu is asking. Who exactly borrowed? So you have a default rate of 68.3. If you're running a business, just think of running a business, because this is money. This is money, and in essence, what you're doing then, you're actually allowing borrowers to get the money, access the funds, but then they need to repay. So if you're looking at a situation where you're running this as a business, because I don't think that's how this thing is being run, 68.3%. You actually close shop.
So that means if you have, say, if your working capital is 10 shillings, that means almost 7 shillings is lost. So you have 3 shillings to operate with. Funga duka enda home. Because we're also talking about default. Now add that plus the net loss of 71.5%. So, where? Okay.
You guys, the fund was set up in November 2022 by President Ruto with a seed capital of 50 billion, like we established already. Now, listen to this. Its intention was to repair credit records of individuals, particularly owners of small businesses, who had been negatively listed and could not access formal financing. That's who this fund was for. Do we find that this money that is, quote unquote, not missing, was borrowed by this cadre? That's who it was essentially for.
And then you see, if we want that information on those who had bad credit ratings, that would mean we go to the reference credit bureaus. What's their report on these individuals who had been listed before, and has their
have they actually been removed?
Improved? Is the question.
See, how this Hustler Fund is working, in my opinion, is like a revolving credit institution. But you have records, and in your records you know who borrowed and how much they borrowed. You can track the rate at which they're actually repaying whatever it is that they've borrowed. So when you have a default of 68.3, and the last time I checked, they're actually asking for more money. Hustler Fund was asking for more money. So like I said, if we don't know who these borrowers are,
this is now the third time I'll ask it. Who actually borrowed this money, you guys?
That's the whole point.
If you start to look and ask who borrowed this money, this is not some mystery or some issue that the CS is sitting and saying, actually, you know what, Kenyans, you've borrowed money, you need to return it. No. I'm telling you, if you actually look at the people who they're saying borrow this money, 500, 700 shillings, shishi, you not go find. As in, okay, anyway, what my point...
Shishi, you not go find.
I mean, look, if you actually go down that rabbit hole, you find that this money that from this 50 billion shillings is not in the hands of these individuals that it was meant to actually help in the very beginning. Maybe we need to, I don't know if it's too late to be asking people to come clean about certain things.
True.
But I can,
Pesa ni mingi inchi. Pesa ni mingi
50
natembea.
billion.
Yeah, pesa ni mingi natembea.
Okay, you have 1 minute. Okay, 30 seconds to share a story. Or is that too short?
Sorry?
Yeah, I was going to give you 30 seconds.
30
to
seconds.
Share another story with us.
I would have gone with this audit that's unearthing payslip crisis in the public sector. Nancy Gadongo's reports. I just love reading her reports. Like I always say, I don't know how she sleeps. So the nationwide salary crisis unfolding in the public sector is affecting quite a number of government departments. So the crisis has been triggered by President William Ruto's aggressive revenue raising measures. Pay as you earn, housing levy, deductions to the newly established Social Health Authority. But let me quickly go into some numbers here. So earlier reports revealed an even graver situation across the broader government, particularly in the security and interior sectors. At least 47,300 workers had deductions that exceeded legal limits, with police officers the hardest hit. More than 36,600 members of the National Police Service had overcommitted their pay slips. Thousands of others were affected at the Interior Ministry, Kenya Prison Service, Immigration Department, Treasury, and the Social Protection Docket. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So, shockingly, the other agencies I was looking at, well, these agencies are just too many. But the whole point is this. What is clear is that there's a systemic liquidity crisis. And that's what Nancy is unearthing, because what is then showing there is a fueled combination of poor pay, high taxation, and mounting statutory deductions that have eroded the dignity of the public service.
And that's what it looks like. Coming up to 7 o'clock this morning, conversations now with the Kuku Chair at 7. Good morning.